Hi guys, so I've been modding one of these HobbyKing truck glider foamies into a ducted fan RC jet. I've taken some photos, but I thought maybe if I just pull it all apart before I finally glue it up and show you what I've done in a video tutorial instead of a couple of pictures, it may be of more use. Alright, so what I did is got out the old scalpel and I sliced off the back. I then followed the panel line that was here. I sliced it there, I sliced that, and then I sliced the entire belly, both sides, off. So I had 3 belly pieces for the fuse and the tailpipe, let's call it. Alright, so this piece actually comes off, so I glued that to the fuse. I'm not too sure why they did that. It must have been easier to mould it that way. So anyway, so I had all my pieces off, and I've done quite a lot. I've gutted it all and I've started gluing it back together, but before I put the final glued pieces on, I'll just show you what I've done here. Oh, we've got a little tiny bit of glue there that's holding on. There we go. That's because I just glued that on, but I needed these 2 pieces to make sure the alignment was correct. Alright, so I've just glued the intakes on. A UMX 28mm E-Flight 180 fan unit. Never try and work and balance a fan. It really breaks your concentration. I actually blew it, so I've got a the E-Flight fan. For some reason I was drilling out the wrong side to balance it out, and it still wouldn't balance, so I just kept drilling holes thinking, well, you know, I've got to keep going until I get all the weight off. Yeah, I was drilling the wrong side, so I was making it actually heavier and heavier on the heavy side, so it was just getting worse and worse. And I thought, well, stuff it, I'll start again. So what I did was trim down a GWS 30mm 6-blader into a, where can we go for that view? Okay, I just had to pause in case the camera had to focus. Yeah, so it's got now a 6-blader on it, no problems. And as you can see here, 2 little linear servos. They are not the AS3X type, they're just a standard type. And I've put them inside some 1mm heat shrink so that the wires would all stick together. 3 drops of super glue along the line there so it's easier to crack off, but enough to hold on. And I've recessed it here and here so that it shouldn't interfere with the airflow too much. I feel that's pretty smooth. After doing that, sanding out all this stuff, in case you're wondering how I did that, all I did was find some sort of old tube that I had that was smaller than 28mm, wrapped some 80 grit onto it, and what I did is I just moved that up just a tiny bit so that when I sanded it curved over and away it went. You know, it wouldn't catch on the actual cardboard tubing there. And so I dug it in like that, dig until I got a channel. Once I had a channel right, I then held it in my hand. As you can see, it fits quite nicely, and then just cradled the unit, and away we went. Once I was happy with that, I stepped down to a bit of 240, I think it's 240 or 180, 240, and same thing again, just wrapped it around like that and just gave it a smooth polish off. Lovely. And way you should see the workshop floor, it's yeah, I've got blackish sort of carpet. I'm telling you, this stuff turned it to snowflakes. Alright, so did that. I did it to the rear as well. Same thing. So that's, as you can see, it just fits there quite nicely. Actually, it's just a bit smaller, so I had to go left, had to go right, and then tunnel down the middle, and then sort of, you know, smooth it out, blah, blah, left, right, until I got a you know, nice curvy thing going on there, and a curvy thing going on at the back there, which seemed to work out just fine. I just kept sanding it until I could sit on top of the fan unit comfortably like that, without an air gap. Same for this. That was just front and back was the same thing. I haven't been too fantastically accurate about it, because this is just a quick fun project to basically, what do they call it, wet my feet, get back in the game. Alright, so I did that. I then got a U-Butte HobbyKing Yija 936 variable heat setting soldering station, and I jammed it into the air intake there. Now it got a bit too hot, okay, well, yeah, live and learn. So that's a little bit spongy here, but I have a plan, I'll show you that in a minute. And I did the same thing, I melted all the back stuff out, and once I was comfortable with how much I'd gouged out, first I cut some out, then I melted some out to try and get that, he's trying for an angle there, to try and get a smooth airflow duct. Then same thing again, broke out the sandpaper with the 80 grit and sanded it until it was flush with that. If you see, I've got a little black text mark there. What I did is I butted these two pieces together and then drew the texture line onto this one as this curve being its guide, so that I would get this curve flush. Worked out well. This wasn't glued on at the time, you know, I was just holding these two pieces together, and oh yeah, I can see I need to do some more, but you can see the airflow there looks pretty good. Now, because it's a 28mm with 14mm missing, thanks to the hub, the real 100% FSA is a lot smaller than 28mm, so that's why I'm going to go for it. It may not work, but I'm going to go for it and try the original air intake that came with the glider. We'll see how we go. Now, saying about the this becoming a little bit spongy, and we know that's going to be the bash plate on landings, that's going to cop the whacking each time. So I've got some really thick plastic heat shrink here, big roll of it actually. Believe it or not, I put it over this unit, and by just gently applying the the heat gun, I just waved it above it and melted it bit by bit until it tensed up, and I had a piece of heat shrink wrapped all around it. I then cut around here, so that, do that again, cut around here, and remove the excess heat shrink. So basically what I ended up with is a little bash plate, which I found worked really well on the MiG, and so that is now going to give added protection to the landings. And once that's glued on, see, that's a lot harder, so we're not going to lose foam on the bashings. I'm going to rub some epoxy in there as well, just to strengthen this mouthpiece around the front area here. So that's the plan. Right, what else did I do? Alright, well that's the bottom. Okay, so we've got the fan mounted in. I used the UMX Mig's mounting bolts and pads, or inserts, whatever you want to call them. I took them out of the MiG and I glued them in there. So I screwed it all together, put it in there, lined it all up, cut some recesses, and then in she went. I've also cut out a channel going along here for the wire. Also underneath there's a 3 pin connector connecting the well, I use servo wire for the power here because I needed something thin and flexible, but this can now come, this can also come out. You can unplug it, you know, if it comes to that. Alright, and also you can see that my plan is tailor on action only, like the phase 3 F16s that were out. That worked fine for me. Loved the F16 phase 3, so I'm going for a just tailer-on only here. This would seem to be a nice place to put the servos. I was going to mount the servos on the side walls here. Yeah, there just wasn't enough meat there to make me happy about it, so I decided, okay, look, we'll go into the wings. I have recessed them about 3mm, so they are sunken down into the board. You can see that? Ooh, wait, there we go, you can see they are slightly recessed. Looked alright to me. They're actually held in with, there's these, if you buy power transistor heat sinks, you get these thermal conducting double-sided tape, rubbery, very rubbery double-sided tape, but it's also thermal conducting, but they're really sticky, way stickier and a lot thinner than a lot of the double-sided tapes you can get. The double-sided tape that I've got is really thick, so I didn't want that spongy thing going on, so I used these and they've mounted it really solidly, so I'm happy about that. Right, so I am planning on, well, I should say I'm thinking about doing a magnetic latch here, but I'll see. I may end up just tacking it down on all 4 spots, and if I need to get in, I'll just cut it off. I tried sticky tape, but the tape doesn't stick to this stuff. There's too much wax on it, and it's a bit late to wash it now because everything's mounted in there. Right, so, oh, and also, if you notice this wire hanging out here, I also soldered on extension leads to the servos so that I could reach the receiver up the front here. This is a stripped down bunch of iPad charger lead. My kids really like destroying stuff, and they destroyed the the plug connections are bendy, and it was just totaled, so they broke the wire, and I thought, well, I'll save that for a rainy day. That wire's going to come in handy, and sure enough, here we are. And we've got some extension leads now. I soldered them straight onto the boards. You can see the colour there, red, black and white. Did that for both of them, and I'll trim it up and take the excess off. Same with this. I put a pin on this for the reason of oops, here we go. Here's my board set up. Now this used to be in the MiG as well. This is a stripped down AR6100, a Castle Creations 10 ampere, and I've got a voltage regulator here that I've dropped down to 4 volts so that I don't pop the servos because they're only 1S. So this little regulator, it's just it's just a regulator and a resistor to set the correct voltage, and of course the AR6100 works at 4 volts, so that worked out just quite well, didn't it? Alright, and now you can see the front end. I'll just put that down so I don't have to catch it. What I did with the front end is, when I hacked out the battery tray, it became really thin at the bottom, wafer thin, even though it's strengthened by the intake area, with that, with the intake area just along there. I felt it was a bit too flimsy, and we all know what happens when these jets nose in, don't we? They just snap. So epoxy and glass bubble mix, and stuck that into there. This is the step up area here, so we've got the battery tray here, and the ESC and receiver is going to go here. The receiver is actually going to go sinking into the nose there, and this is always snapped on me with F16s. So 2 pieces of 3x1 carbon fibre rod, epoxied in each end there to make it nice and strong, because this could bend really easily. I've taken that off. I'm going to hack into that to put the receiver there. So I've got the board, the ESC, the LiPo. That's the plan. Alright, don't mind my bench, this is how I work. So, oh yeah, so once all this garbage is gone, I should have pointed out that for the battery hatch, I just simply followed the panel lines and then made a couple myself for the sides. So we've got a battery hatch here, and that's going to be just I'm thinking we're going to latch it in the front here and then hook it down the back there. Probably end up using a magnet to go and lock it in and pop it open. So that's coming along very nicely as well. So that was just cut out. You can still see the cut marks. I just basically put a V. I did a V cut so that these channels at the edge would be high and it would sink in. So it would sit in and not slide sideways. If I got it wrong, it has to actually sit into the grooves. So that was the plan. That was the plan there. Yeah, I just followed the front panel line and the rear panel line. Held a little 6-inch ruler against it and just cut a nice straight line on both sides with the scalpel or the X-Acto knife at an angle, so you got that little seating arrangement when you go down. The last thing I should be pointing out is the tail sections. That's just been hacked off, flush with the fuse, so they'll be going on right here at an angle down. That's the plan today. Put the tail rod sections on, and it does have anhedral. They do point down ever so slightly, so I'm going to put a pivot hinge on that and then hook up the RC gear, and then to finish up we'll hook the power on. I've got that sitting here ready to go. It'll be a lot neater than this when I'm finished, of course. Then we go for a maiden. And also I sanded out the tailpipe before I glued it back on. 21mm spread, which this thing should still be blinking. So that was 21mm. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. 21mm there for the exit. So that works out quite well. So I teamed it down from there, from 28mm here down to 21mm there. So that was my little exit tube. Just as an addendum to the construction of this X16 RC conversion, I thought I'd better show you how I'm doing the tail-ailerons, in case you're wondering. I'm using as the guide or the runner 2mm carbon fibre rod, and I've got some 2mm inside diameter, 2.5mm outside diameter brass tubing, and so the plan is that that slots into there, making a sleeve, so the rod can turn on the sleeve. So I insert the rod into the taileron right in the centre there, and I've attached my push rod or control horn, and then I've cut up a section of brass rod, or brass tubing, excuse me, and the way I've set it up is that when this goes on here, I'm using the control horn as a spacer too, just to give me a little bit of space between the fuse and the side of the tail, and this is now going to be glued into the fuse, so you've now got control. And right now all I'm doing is looking for a little, I thought I had an aluminium end cap that I could use, but I'm just going to make, if you want for a better term, a plastic washer. It could be metal, could be whatever I can get my hands on, and I'm going to glue it onto the end of this, and so that will stop this from sliding out. But make sure you don't get the glue down the brass tubing, or you've got to start again after cleaning it down. So that stops it from sliding out, and once you've got all that set up, you then, after having drilled a hole into your fuse, insert the whole lot. I'm not going to push it yet because I'm only just up to it, but that's what I'll do. Push that all the way in, and just inside there I've made this just short enough to not stick out into the ducting. So if we do that, you can see it's just shy. Now it looks a bit long now, but once it's inside and it's moved down a bit and you're on an angle, it's just shy of sticking out. I'm not worried if there's a tiny bit left sticking out, but the way I've measured it, it should just not protrude into the cavity of the, if you see that, I've now put it in, you can't see the carbon fibre rod in there. So what I'll be doing is, because I know that there's a hole in there, is once I've glued the brass rod in, when I insert that, and then I'm going to, excuse me while I find the camera, so the brass rod will be glued in. I'll then insert this, and in the little hole that's sitting in there for the end of it is where I'll be putting a plastic washer or some sort of end cap to stop it coming back out again. So that's how I do it both sides, and then you've got your tailorons in action. One thing I did forget to mention is that when I cut the brass tube, I'm just using a old hacked up Dremel. Alright, so what I do is, after I've hacked it off, is I square up the edges to get it nice and square, and then I curl, or should I say bevel, the outer edges so that it doesn't catch, so I smooth that out. Then I get my 2mm drill, place it inside, and then I hold my finger on it and I rotate them both against each other just to make sure there's no burrs inside the cut. And that way you know it's nice and smooth, it's not going to catch or snag or hang up on anything. Alright, so if you've done everything right and you've attached the tailoron or the flight services, you'll end up with this situation. Here's what I've done. It's all hooked in now. Just glued in the brass tubing, and we've got a nice tight set of tails. Turned out really nicely. I'm very happy with that actually. Okay guys, we're at the point now where we've finished the conversion from a foamy chuck glider to a full in-house RC ducted fan jet. Let's go through it. Right, I've got the delta mix or tailorons going on. We've got all the ducting done, all the fuses on. We've got the tailoron servos mounted and operational. We've got the cockpit slash battery compartment with all the electronics in it. I've got two little magnets, one on the hatch, one on the fuse holding the front end in, and in the back I've just got a piece of 3x1 carbon fibre rod just sticking out the back end and hooking into a little rear access notch that I cut out. So we've got all the electronics in here. I've also carved out this to make some room for the battery. Largest I can get in there is a 300 mAh 2S. So we've got that sitting there. I've got the electronics here. 10 amp Castle Creations Speedy. Underneath that I've got a 1/64th ply sheet, and then under that I recessed down into the fuse deeper actually what I'm using right now is an orange HobbyKing orange receiver. My 6100, trusty 6100 here, was playing up for some reason. I don't know why. It wasn't playing up before when I tested it. When I mounted everything in, the thing started hiccuping. That's good enough for me to get rid of it. So out she goes and into the spare parts box. So we've got it all set up. So I'm guessing I better give you a demo. So LiPo jams in there, the wires all get flattened down in there underneath the canopy, and down she goes. So now we've got it all set up, and receiver, lefty righty, lefty righty. Oh yeah baby, she's ready to go. Alright, next step, made and out in the field. I haven't put the bash plate on yet, that's yeah, that's a double-sided tape job. Alright, well there she is, she's all ready to go. Let's see how she goes weight-wise. Now you can push this sucker all the way back if you wanted to. It's got a Velcro strip on it inside the battery compartment there, so it can be mounted as far back as you can. I can get it as far back as there, which puts the balance point at about here, where that dot is. It sounds sort of familiar. Oh, here we go. How about we get in the right frame? Just about here. It's just across here. I'm not too sure that's going to be nose heavy. If it is, then I would suggest next time somebody makes something, don't put the motor there, move it backwards to give yourself some playroom. Alright, so now we just wait for a nice bit of time. We can get down to the field and take it for a test flight.